Welcome to The Chaos Antidote, a leadership podcast hosted by Jason E. Neal, author of Accidentally Aligned: How Leaders Create Value in Chaos. Through these episodes, we will be exploring real-world problems and applying solutions that reduce your chaos and help you to become accidentally aligned. Hi, everyone. This is Jason Neal. I'm glad to have you with me today. So I'm going to start this off. I thought, what would be a good first topic for this podcast? And one of the things that I thought would be really good to start this off with, because it's such a close thing to me, it's so important to me, is this idea of respect for people. If you haven't picked up a copy of my book, it's called Accidentally Aligned: How Leaders Create Value in Chaos. It's available on Amazon. Kindle is soon will be available on Audible. It's in final approvals right now. And it's paperback, hard copy, and ebook. But I want to start off by reading a quote from page 31 of my book. This is where I discuss the topic of respect for people. I'm not concerned with you liking or disliking me. All I ask is that you respect me as a human being. This is a quote by Jackie Robinson. And I want you to think about this for a minute and reflect, right? That the times when we have interactions with people and we have maybe disagreements or we're in difficult situations, and we certainly can find them, right? The business moves very quickly and there's a lot of pressure, and we get pressure from different places, and we're trying to move a large mass of people and resources like that along. We can surely pick up some disrespect, right? And our minds are often weaker than our emotions. So we have to train our minds constantly. When my emotions flare, how am I going to react to others? How am I going to, when fear hits me, am I going to react with fighting and defending myself? Am I going to flee? Am I going to try to attack people and tear them down, right? What things am I going to do when those emotions hit? And this is what builds our culture of respect for others, or respect for people, respect for humanity, as it's sometimes called, right? And thinking of this idea, it's a discipline. It requires a discipline. If we don't know how we're going to behave in a given moment, and then we think we're going to behave in the best possible way when that moment hits, we're deceiving ourselves. We have to prepare ourselves for every moment far before that moment hits, right? When I studied martial arts, for several years, I would train in a dojo with my sensei, and I would wear pads, and we were in a safe environment, and we would spar at 25% strength. And why did we do all that? Sometimes we would fight invisible opponents through kata techniques. Why would we do that? It wasn't so that we would get good at fighting invisible opponents, or that we would be good, hitting our guards together, right? The reason that we were doing that is because one day, if we were ever caught in that situation and there was no safety there was no guards, there was no sensei there to guide us on what to do. There was, and we were in a situation where the stakes were very high, that we had prepared and we were ready for that moment. And I try to lead this off with that in mind, right? What we're doing in every moment of our life, sometimes it seems really small. I very rarely have people follow me around when I do the right things and clap for me or say, wow, good job. That's really great. They just don't do that. It's not something that happens. It's like when you plant a seed in the garden, right? And you put it under the soil, and it sits there for a while, and you water it, and there's sun, and there's dirt, but it doesn't really do anything. It sits there for a long time. And if we keep doing it, sometimes, hopefully more times than others, we'll begin to see a little sprout come out. But it's not really that exciting. Even then, we've had a time when nothing happened for a long time, and we might say, oh, good, something's happening, right? I see something there. But it doesn't yield fruit for a long time. It doesn't yield, something that is good to consume for a long time. It just kind of keeps growing. And that's how our lives are. It's those little actions that we do. On the cover of my book, I have these stepping stones, right? And they're aligning, and that's what this accidental alignment book is about. But each of those stepping stones, if you think about our lives, it's those little things that nobody sees. How did we treat people when no one was looking? How did we treat people when we knew we would get away with it? How did we treat people when we knew that the general consensus was okay with us treating them disrespectful and nothing was going to be done? In fact, maybe it was even advantageous for us to do it. Maybe we're going to get promoted by doing it. And it's these little things that define us. They define our personal brand, they define our character, our personality. And why does this matter? Why is this even important? Because where we create a culture of safety, where people are psychologically safe and they're able to tell us things without fear of being punished or being embarrassed or humiliated or something bad happening to them, they will tell us things. And they'll tell us things that we're not always ready to hear. Hey, you have a major quality issue, and wow, that's great. Thank you. It's a very different response than, why are you bringing this to me? Why don't you go back there and fix it and do your job, right? And it's this culture. When we create this and people can come and bring ideas, we get this Kaizen culture, this continuous improvement culture where people begin to grow and they're not afraid to challenge what we would call the status quo. Shigeo Shingo shared in one of his books that the average age of highest creativity is age 14. So as we develop this as we're younger and we go through our lives, we develop this ability to create things that don't exist, to imagine things that aren't here yet. These are new ideas. They're kind of like what the Wright brothers did when they said, we're going to build a plane and we're going to fly, right? It's this ability to dream. And as we get older, after 14, we start developing this other skill and it ramps up rather quickly. And it's the ability to criticize, because criticism actually takes a whole lot less mental energy than creativity. Creating something that doesn't exist is very difficult, but criticizing something that someone created is actually very easy. And if you think of this even in lean terms, our mind is developing the quickest path, the most efficient path to solve a problem. Well, it's taking a lot of energy, and I'm not really getting the return that I wanted on developing new ideas. So it's easier for me to find ideas that others have created. And then I can demonstrate with very quick ability and response this masterful skill that I've created called criticism. And there's nothing wrong with correcting people. There's nothing wrong with amplifying and pulling people in the wrong way. But it's when we devalue people, they know it. And if you've ever been devalued, when you walk away from a situation, it feels bad. It's not something you'd want to walk away from and do it again anytime soon. And they don't. They don't. Just as we use an efficient process to push ourselves forward and criticize and tear down, they will also use an efficient process and say, well, the last three times that I told them something that was important, they tore me down and it's taking away from my energy and it's not yielding a good thing. So it's a waste of time, right? They will identify it as waste. And it's really hard once a team identifies continuous improvement and imagining and dreaming and forming new ideas as waste. It's really difficult to turn them around because you have to establish that trust again. Mark Twain said that a cat will never walk across a hot stove twice. Obviously, it burns its feet, but he said it'll never walk across a cold one either. And I have found that people will walk across a cold stove, but we have to do a lot of acrobatics to show them that that stove is actually cold, right? And and this is what we're trying to do. So when you think about respect for people, what is it? What it looks like? I've got some really good examples in my book. You can check that out. But but how do we engage? And this is what I would ask you to think about this week. As you have interactions with people, be mindful towards it. As you have interactions with people and you're talking to them and they're sharing ideas with you, how do you react? How do you respond? How do you encourage or discourage? And are the things that we're saying to them, are they things that we would want said to us? And even if someone is saying it to us, don't use that as an excuse. Well, my boss gave it to me and I gave it to them. Well, that's fair. Your boss might have created their personal brand, but that doesn't mean that your personal brand has to be the same, right? We, as leaders, we develop the culture that we work in. The other thing I hear a lot from leaders when I share this idea is they're like, "Yeah, that's kind of like a kindergarten thing that you're teaching. It's kind of elementary, and if I did that, if I changed my behavior and I started doing these things and being respectful to people, other leaders would see me as weak and they would see me as a wounded gazelle and they would, pounce on me. And I can't tell you how other leaders will or won't respond to you if you do these things. But I will tell you this, the idea that being respectful of others and respectful of people's humanity as they're growing is it's not a weakness. And I hear that from leaders. They're like, well, that's a weakness. That's a weak way of management. That's a weak way of leadership. And it's just not. It's actually, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of strength to swim upstream, especially when there's a large organization and there's a lot of current. There's a lot of water pushing back against us. So this is what I encourage you this week. Take time, self-analyze, look at the way we interact with others, watch the way that people interact with us, and here's the thing: culture is whatever the most powerful people in an organization are willing to tolerate. If we are willing to set a culture and tolerate disrespect and people not working together, we will certainly do that. But if we're wanting to create a different culture, it takes work. And I don't sell these ideas as easy. I don't come out and tell people, hey, this is going to be easy and it's going to be fun. No, it's going to be really hard. But I will tell you this, the things that I do in my life that have the greatest value are often very difficult. That the times that I've grown the most have been in the dark places when the seed of my life was under the ground and it hadn't come forth yet, right? It's those dark times that we find ourselves and we learn the lessons. But anyway, pick up a copy of my book, check out my website, jasoneneal.com. I also have links there to my YouTube channel. You can follow me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I post on there every few days. And really looking forward to connecting. Hope this hits you at the right place, the right time, and in the right way. And let's make tomorrow better than today. Thank you.